Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of A Crystal Clear Mind. Thank you for joining us today. As you can see here, we've got a bit of sunshine going on in the UK, which makes a very rare occasion. So we're very much lapping it up. And today I am joined by Gill Bauer. This is Gill. Hi, Gill.
Morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening, wherever you're from.
I do always feel bad when I sort of specify what season it is, what time of day it is, because I realise people can listen to this at any given moment in time. But on particular days like this where it's sunny in the UK, I do like to kind of point it out a bit because it is so rare. Usually it's so grey in my background that I like to make a bit of a point. But we are joined today by Gill, and we're going to turn our attention back to her. So Gill is a kinesiologist. Now, this is a subject that I am really very interested in and newly interested in. So I'm super fascinated here before we even begin. But Gill wears loads of hats. She is very multi-skilled. So I'm going to hand over, as I always do. Gill, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell everybody all about yourself.
Okay. So getting back to the time frame, I've just literally come back from Australia, which is autumn, and now nighttime. So I'm still really jet lagged. So yeah, I'm a kinesiologist. Obviously had a career in the city beforehand, but I sort of kinesiology. I found my way into it, and it's a perfect fit for me. I suppose everybody, when you say the word kinesiology, most people have heard of it, but they often say, oh, isn't that strange thing when they just deal with allergies and muscle testing? It is that, but it's so much more. And I think that's why you have to wear so many hats, because it can be, it's about the body. It's biofeedback connection to the body. So you have to know a lot about the body. I do a lot of movement. So I do yoga and qigong, prescription movements, so that you've got the body. And then, of course, we know we've got the emotions and we've got the mind. So you have to know all about that. Then you've got viruses, toxins, sensitivities, intolerances, allergies, nutrition, deficiency, all of that. So that's all the biochemistry stuff. Then you've got the energy stuff, which is the 5 elements, traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, all of those things they do. So then you have to, that's probably 100 years worth of learning just there in TCM. And then you've got all the spiritual stuff that goes on, and, the awakening and the consciousness and everything that's going on globally for everybody right now, and how is this impacting us. And so you have to sort of fit it all together. So you almost have to wear so many hats, and know a lot of things about a lot of things, which is great. But you can't, how do you then specify where you're working and what you're doing?
Absolutely. In kinesiology, just as that one little word, I'm a kinesiologist, when you describe it like that. Like, I mean, I have a lot of women on here. They are multi-skilled, multifunctional, multi-talented. They have studied all sorts of areas. But for what you're saying, I mean, that's a lot.
A lot of
It's not like
training, a lot of
that shocks
courses.
me either. When people say, oh, I do a lot of things, you're like, yeah, I totally understand. But that's a lot. That's a huge amount.
And
So
I
you've got
think,
knowledge of all of these aspects just to come back to that one word.
yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
it's kinesiology is the umbrella, but you've got
Yeah.
obviously these pillars that you work with, and you can then specialize. So obviously, I can have literally anyone turn up on a one-to-one, get on my couch, and then you have to be open to deal with any issue is that impacting that client. But then you also specialize. So I've over the last sort of 10 years, I've gone through peri to post, into post-menopause. So that was a journey for me. So then I've specialized in that. So balancing the change, the kinesiology way. And I've got sort of different areas of that I'm sort of specializing in, and got projects in and focus points on that.
Yeah, because again, I mean, that list must be quite endless, especially from like a business perspective as well as from a passion perspective. Because yeah, I mean, literally, you could between the hormones and female health and even teenagers. Because I mean, I assume this is obviously for everyone, much like most of these things are. These modalities work for kids and teens and adults alike.
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at the hormones, you're looking at the sort of 7 stages of life, from puberty to teenagers, to fertility and contraception, and then childbirth, and then recovering from childbirth, and then perimenopause, you know, menopause, post-menopause, and beyond. So it's navigating all of those areas, and that's learning a lot about human nature and how we evolve, and things that come up that can set us back. So when the hormones are great, they're great, and when they dip or flux, there's problems. It impacts us on multiple levels, and so then there's things like that 60 symptoms now from perimenopause that women might go through. But it's also what I'm finding a lot as well is a lot of women are going through endo and they're having fertility issues. And as
Yeah.
someone that had multiple miscarriages, I had problems. I've got 4 children. I had identical twins. I had a problematic birth with the twins.
Oh, wow.
Um, I almost feel I'm always said to the universe, can you stop giving me things? Let me learn without having to experience everything. And so, when I went through the menopause, the 60 symptoms, I was playing bingo because, I'm like, oh yeah, got that one. Bingo! I've got a full house. I've
Oh my
experienced
gosh.
a lot. But everything
No.
I do is like looking at alternative or complementary or additional or supportive, so that everyone's different. Everyone's experience of everything is different. So then you have to have, a huge toolbox and loads of skills and techniques in your, in your pockets for that.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. And you're right. I mean, It I find that once we sort of go into this alternative therapy sector, let's say this well-being sector, where all we want to do is just help people, to guide them, to help them, to support them, as you said, you do want to learn more, and you can't really stop learning either. Even once you've kind of like mastered this little section, let's say, even if you can't master it necessarily, but you feel like you've done that, you kind of look to the left, you go, oh, that's interesting. What's that thing that could support this thing that I've started over here? And you constantly want to learn. TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, is now on my list, because I realise we keep calling it TCM, and maybe someone out there might not know what we're talking about. But that's now on my little radar as to where I would love to go next. And what did you say earlier? Like over 100 years of learning right there in that section alone. You
Yeah,
know,
and one of the so balancing the change. Obviously, women come and they want to know about their hormones. They want to know about the timeline. They want to know about the symptoms. But there is this huge, great big TCM aspect, Chinese traditional medicine, and they deal with the 5 elements. So if your 5 elements are out and your Chinese, the patterns, energy patterns are out, then that all links to um, the imbalance of the hormones. And so I love the sort of modern version
yeah,
and the ancient way, and blending them together because they really underpin each other. So if you're in Chinese traditional medicine, 5 elements, we've got the liver. The liver's all about hormones and digestion and flow and mood and sleep. So if that's imbalanced and we can get the liver balanced, cool, we're now ticking off some symptoms that will improve with that.
yeah.
So so there's the 5 element here, and then we've got the modern version that we all sort of think about when we think about the menopause, and it's a real blending of the two, and it works beautifully well. And I don't think anyone's got that out there at the moment, so that I think that's quite unique. Um, so at the moment, I'm working with the States, and we're teaching other kinesiologists around the world. This we put together like a program, a course, a training, which is really exciting. So I'm teaching other kinesiologists how to
Wow.
work with women. So it's really exciting and challenging, but really enjoying it.
Well, that's fascinating. You said you're doing that around the world.
Yeah, like
Oh,
literally you
wow.
name the country, and we've got a kinesiologist that is there. So, and it's crossing religious boundaries as well. Different, different people have different viewpoints, don't they? So that's been a real learning curve. Um, Different cultures. The way with a lot of Canada, where they've got lots of ancestry and history and um, you know healing tools and herbs and things like that. So and how do they work with it, and how different countries are affected by menopause. And some have certain symptoms, some don't. Some suffer really badly with hot flushes, some countries don't. So it's really, that's been a real learning curve as well. And
Yeah, I
interesting to find
suppose
out
it
what.
would make it different, wouldn't it?
Mm,
Depending on where you are, and not just from an obvious standpoint of like the temperature in that country, but there would be differing elements for sure from where you are,
mm,
where you're born as well. Just because you're in that country doesn't mean you were necessarily born in that country. But yeah, I mean, that's actually quite fascinating.
mm. And I think some countries have worse environmental issues. So then
Yeah.
you've got the fake estrogens and the chemicals that are in the foods and in, you know, Canada's not very good about. They're very strict about what you can do and what you can say, and they're sort of trying to shut down alternative and complementary therapy.
See, that surprises me for
Yeah,
Canada. I
I
wouldn't have
know.
thought. I would, if someone sort of asked me which countries you would assume would be anti alternative supportive therapies, I wouldn't have said Canada. That's so
Yeah,
strange.
yeah. And so you have to be really careful about.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
we,
yeah.
we don't ever claim anything and we don't diagnose. Obviously, we're not doctors, we're therapists, and, we do counseling and we deal with all aspects. But you just, there are certain things that we would take for granted in the UK that you can't say or do or suggest in certain countries. So that I think that's been my biggest learning curve. And we think UK is quite bad on certain topics like that. But other countries are more closed down and got everything nailed down. And, they're promoting, HRT more so and not
Yeah.
giving women alternative options. And yeah, some women definitely need HRT. Some can't tolerate it. Some are doing a bit of this, a bit of that. But eventually women will have to come off a HRT. And so there's nothing else out there. And so, this balancing the change, the kinesiology way, is looking at all, what else can we do to help support that women? Because it's not just I'm particularly really interested in the postmenopausal woman and how they're becoming invisible and looked over and ignored. And I think that's those women in the mammal world, they're the ones that are leading the pods. Their knowledge and their experience. They know where,
Yeah.
the orca whales are the only mammals that really have menopause, but you then have the archetype of the wise woman that is teaching the others where the safety parts are, where you can fish, where not to fish. And I think that's something that's trying to be knocked out of women as we go through postmenopause.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. I would say there's a huge, huge focus at the moment, obviously, on perimenopause more than
Mm,
menopause itself, isn't there? It's become love awareness, love knowledge. But again, it's not the whole picture. So it's been very focused in one direct area, forgetting that there's a whole breadth of stuff going on over this side afterwards. The peri can go on for quite a while and it's a long
mm.
run up. What about
Well,
the actual in the thick of it? What happens after it? And it does. That's the rest of us from there on, isn't it? It
and there's
continues.
there's a long there's a long timeline, and
Yeah.
I think there's been a lot of promotion about
There
menopause, and we
has.
sort of
Yeah.
got our head around it. But until you go through it, you don't know how you're going to experience it, and it creeps up. You don't even know that you're going through it. But and then that could be like 12 years. And so
Yeah.
it's like these patterns slowly creep up on you, and then you start sort of breaking you down a little bit, energy wise, mood wise, sleep wise, confidence wise. And then before you know it, in the middle, you're a different person. So that's one of the things I always talk about is from the start of going through, we're a different person every 7 years anyways, all our cells.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So even just through that, 12, 15 years from peri to post menopause and beyond, you're a completely different person each of those stages, and you deal
You're
with things
almost
in a
two
completely
different
different
people.
way.
If
I,
within 7 years, you've got two regenerations there.
I would say
That's a
three.
lot.
I would split it up almost into 4 actually, because you've got
Okay.
perimenopause, you've got the beginning and the end of perimenopause are completely different.
Yeah.
You've got menopause, you've got that bit in the middle, which is 365 days when nothing's happening. It's like a pause. It literally is. You stop menstruating, but not consistently. You might go 4 months and then you might have a bleed. Then you've got to start again. You almost get, it's almost like pause. Mother Nature has sort of just got you in a holding pattern there. So you can adapt mentally, emotionally, catch up a little bit. And then you're into postmenopause, and there's different stages of that as well. So, it is such an interesting topic. And it some women say they sail through that, but if they reflect back and look at their behavior or some of the traumas or what they went through or how they dealt with stuff, they might think, oh my God, I probably was really perimenopausal there when I
Yeah.
had that big bust up with my best friend, or I decided that this marriage wasn't for me, or I completely changed the way I do work, or you had like a completely changed your attitude, and then into postmenopause. A lot of women, because they don't have responsibilities, they're they there's different types obviously, but there's one type that will just, right, had the kids, let them get on with it. I'm buggering off to Benidorm. And they just uproot and leave everything behind. And then God knows what they're doing in Benidorm. All I know, sexual diseases in the 70s and 80s are up. So they're living the life. Honestly, you're always learning. Every time I sort of work with a client or I do a course or I'm sort of learning more about, I think, oh my God, didn't know that dynamic. There's another thing. So it's interesting, and I can literally get any client come on my couch, and so it could be that woman that has gone off to Benidorm, having relationship issues, seeing 1 or 2 men, and then she's got relationship issues because she's left the child and the grandchildren and the dynamics there, and it can get messy, but interesting.
Life, eh? Honestly, it can get
Life.
so messy. Your simple decisions that you think are just such simple little decisions, just my choice, and then it
Yeah.
affects everything. And you kind of go, oh, crap! I'm still responsible for all of it. You're just a part of all of it. But I love that the concept that yeah, that sexual diseases are on the rise in that age bracket.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
definitely tells us how the dynamics of age have changed, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really does, because you wouldn't have heard of that
No,
20 years ago.
I remember going on a cruise when I was perimenopause. So, I'm knackered. I got headache, I got migraines, my energy's up and down, my sleep's up and down, my moods are up and down. And I remember being exhausted and going to bed about 10:30. So you've had your full day, you've had your dinner, you've had your entertainment, you've had a few drinks, and then you take yourself off to bed. And as you're taking yourself off to bed, the 70s into the 80s are going up to the silent disco. And they're all starting the night at 10:30, and I'm just like, oh, please, I hope I get that sort of energy,
Oh
later
my
on. And
gosh.
it does come back to you. So that's a positive. You do get, you lose a bit of energy, but you gain it. And it's about how you use that really. And do you use it wisely? Do you use it for growth, or do you use it for fun? What do you use that energy for? So yeah, it's interesting.
Absolutely love that. That is brilliant. And I think it's almost a little bit, we get to this stage as well, don't we? That we hit probably around our 40s. So I don't know if it's specifically that decade, like we're in our 4th decade, or if it is to do with that build up of those hormones and you're starting to change in your body or not. But we really get to this, I just don't give a fuck what anyone thinks kind of response, don't we? We just don't care anymore. And I listen to that, and that's what they sound like. They've just hit this part
Yeah.
where they've gone through all of that. They've got a little bit of energy back.
Oh,
Their responsibilities have diminished, and they're just kind of like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to go to the silent disco.
yeah. And they've
I will start my night
downsized.
at 10 o'clock.
they're downsized or they got divorced. So they've got a little bit of spare cash. They're financially a little bit well off, not well off, but better off than most of us. And then they can enjoy themselves. And so, but that's great as long as it doesn't affect the family or relationships.
Yeah, of
And,
course.
there is obviously pros and cons to doing that, isn't it? Yeah. And that's just one side of facet of that personality. Then you've got the other side, which is the invisible, forgotten, lost confidence, just says yes to everything. um they lose who they really are. They've forgotten who they are, and they just shrink and become smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's though you've got extremes. You've got the Benidorm, and then you've got the shrinking violets, and and you can have different levels in between as well.
Yeah, of course.
Mm. Yeah. So then it's about, we're in postmenopause for up to 30 years. So we've really got to cultivate and work with our health, because that's the other thing. Nobody talks about postmenopause. We're all about navigating the hormones early on, and all of the stuff that goes with that. But I think like the postmenopause is when we really have to focus on our health, because the big things happen then. The life-threatening illness is happening then. And I think movement is really key. So movement is, I think, the medicine for the future. We have to keep moving, even if it's just your qigong, stretching, breathing, grounding. When we say movement, everyone gets a bit, not everybody likes exercise. But I think movement is the next big thing. And obviously that's the area I've been in since I was in my 20s.
And movement is different to exercise. Exercise does
Right.
conjure up great exertion, images in your mind, or gym memberships, or whatever. And it may mean that, it may not. But movement is very different. It is different
Mm.
because, a nice, gentle walk,
Yeah.
yoga, as you say, qigong, these things, tai chi, lovely, fluid, flowing, just movement of the body, getting those joints going, keeping that balance, keeping that stability. It's what I love about yoga. I love yoga, but I do it for my joints, which have been giving me jip for the last few years. And I do it for my balance as well, because the more my joints give me jip, the more my balance is out of whack. And I don't like that feeling at all at 40 something. I don't like feeling like I'm not steady on my own 2 feet all the time. Um, we do catering as well. We've got a catering company, and we're up and down in vans quite a lot. And now I've got this fear to jump that little lip from the van down to the ground, because I don't trust my body anymore. And it's
Yeah.
not a choice. I feel it. I just feel it instantly, instinctively. Don't trust your body; you might fall.
Yeah.
And that's what I do yoga for, is to give me that balance back.
I do think that's a perimenopausal thing, because um, when I was 50, I was I was late, by the way. My hormone type is, I'm an estrogen dominant woman. So I didn't hit my perimenopause too much later. And when I was 50, I was probably just starting to go into perimenopause, but everything was normal. I was still menstruating. And I thought I'd do a marathon just to prove that I've still got it. Obviously, I didn't have it. And I went through that fear of, okay, if I do this training, it's going to hurt. What about if I injure myself? How am I going to work? Is this really wise? And I kept delaying, delaying, delaying. And, you know, that, so I understand where you're talking about there. You do sometimes think your body is breaking down, but then you get past a certain phase and you get that back. So I had migraines, for example, through my menopause, which was like 9 years. And then as soon as they stopped, they just disappeared. And they used to really incapacitate me. And, one of the things I teach is TCM, a Chinese traditional medicine thing called the 50-year shoulder, where your shoulders go. You get rotator cuff issues, and it's repetitive strain. And I did it through yoga, doing, sun salutations, where
Yeah,
you
yeah.
lower your down, and your shoulder's not in the right position. And so then, I went through a phase, and after I did the marathon, I hurt my neck, hurt my back,
Oh my
but
gosh.
but I recovered from it. So really, I think the essence is you have to learn. What I learned from that experience was just because I did that in my 40s and my 30s, I might have to change the way I move and do things in my 50s and 60s.
Do it a little
So
bit differently. Yeah.
yeah, so maybe not doing marathons, maybe not running long distances, maybe just burst or different intensities or walk run or walking uphill or, sometimes you have to just change the way that you do things and the way that you move. So that's what I went through as well. And, if you get like rotator cuff issues or it affects your hips, sometimes a lot of women get sciatica that, knocks them for six. There are so many things that we can do, but a lot of it's education. We don't really understand our body. We don't understand our
No.
joints. We start losing collagen. There's lots of things that we can do. And muscle atrophy and entropy starts happening in our 30s, but we start noticing it in our 40s and our 50s. But the damage
Yeah.
is already done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you have to then change your movements, focus on what you can do for you. And there's just so much available and out there, but not all women understand and know about it. So, but how do you reach people? That's my problem. I've got all of these tools, all of this knowledge, all this skill set, just really difficult reaching the women that you need to be able to share this with.
Absolutely. And there's so much information. It can actually be like really daunting on the other hand. Like I am a knowledge seeker. I love research. I love reading. I love checking into stuff and I love learning more about this subject. Let me just be clear about that. I'm not a great learner on everything, but I love this subject, this entire wealth of knowledge. But even I look, so I go, okay, maybe I need to sort of like start increasing the amount of collagen to replace what I'm, starting to lack slowly. Then you look and all you see is collagen adverts. Bing, 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 just constant. It's like bombardment. You kind of go, stop sending me collagen adverts. Then I was talking to someone the other day and they say that most supplements are actually not doing anything at all. It's not the right doses for the right person because in all fairness, it's so generic. It might work for her. It doesn't work for you, and you kind of look and go, where do you start with that?
Yeah. And that's why, kinesiology is so popular because we can then work on a one-to-one with that client and we muscle test everything. And, your needs change. So what your client, if you're checking a supplement on a Monday, your needs might be different by Wednesday.
Yeah.
Uh, and going back to collagen, I always go back, you got the creams, I go back to the main source, which is amino acids. If you're getting all your amino acids, your body will produce collagen. And there's different types. If you're vegan or vegetarian, then you're not going to get the bovine stuff. So it's looking at your diet as well. And for me, what I've discovered as well is I have a methylation, which is a genetic thing, which is becoming so common now. I think probably 1 in 3 have a methylation issue. So I can't break down certain things. So if I don't have the top of the chain, which is the vitamin Bs like folate, B12, B6, B1, then I can't break any of the chemicals down. So I actually can't
Right.
drink alcohol because my body doesn't have the right um, peptides or whatever it is to break them down. So then I have to avoid it, or I have to add stuff into my diet so that I
Yeah.
can then
To
help to break
compensate.
that down. And that's why I'm estrogen dominant, because I don't break down the estrogen. So it's not just your diet. It
No.
then impacts you on so many levels. And so like, I can't dye my hair because I can't break down the chemicals in the hair dye. So, that is impacting a lot of people now, females and men, and they don't realize it. And then your body copes. Then all of a sudden your body doesn't cope. And then you think it's just happened out of the blue, but it hasn't. It's
No.
been something you might have had for a long time, but your body's been adapting, it's doing its best, it's trying to, then all of a sudden you become completely deficient or, and, everyone you talk to is having B12 injections. So that's a really common thing now, but it's all about understanding about methylation and how that impacts um, your whole body. So that's the biochemistry stuff. So oh my God, you have to learn so much and know so much. But once you do it all, I'm dyslexic, and dyslexic people like to have the big picture. So I can't just have like this bit of the jigsaw puzzle. I'm like, well, I want to see, well, how does that impact over there?
Yeah, yeah.
So, kinesiology is that. It's the big picture.
Yeah,
So
literally.
then
I think that's
you
quite a
end up,
nice one between the umbrella and the big picture. I mean, you've really you've got it, haven't you? Yeah.
you've got all the pieces, and then sometimes think, oh, there's a little bit of area there that I feel like something missing. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, it's to do with that. Go, oh my God, that makes perfect sense. Um, so yeah, and it does get overwhelming because you then try and talk about collagen. I could do a 3-hour workshop on collagen. And,
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know,
And that's the problem is each little bit is that big, isn't it? It's not that simple. And that's when I look at these adverts and kind of go, it's a shame because you see so many people buy into it, whether it's collagen or something else, you'll buy into it. And they're investing a lot of money into this. And I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying anything's wrong with them. But if it doesn't fit you, it's no better than taking the wrong multivitamin or anything else. It's not working for you.
no,
Then you're investing your money incorrectly. And I look at people now and I feel that this would always be where I'm a holistic health therapist practitioner, that I send people to people like you. I can't do what you do
mm,
or the hypnotherapist or, anything else, but I send them outwards to you guys for exactly that. It's like I look at you as a whole and then I say, do you know what you need? And it's not going to be some generic collagen supplement or, whatever else. It's going to definitely be to send you to someone that can look at you as a whole person in every aspect and tell you all the stuff that you need, because it's not going to just be one thing. It's not going to
yeah,
be, and you're right. Maybe on Monday it's one thing. By Wednesday it's something different. When you hit this age, it's something completely different. You're going
mm,
through that phase. It's raining. It's different, and it
yeah.
changes, doesn't it? You need that personal, educated input where someone is looking at you as a whole person instead of yeah, just the odd symptom here and there, because we are just so much more than just one symptom at a time.
And that's one of my favorite workshops to teach is like the basics. And because our, every supplement, every essence, every essential oil, every whatever, every piece of food has an energy pattern to it. It's a bit like a key. So then you can tell, and that's what I teach people how to do in the moment. What does your body need? So, like, you can then pick up a supplement or some water. I mean, water is fundamental, for every function in the body. Um, and then see if your body needs it by learning simple self-testing, muscle testing. And people absolutely love that workshop and that course because they don't have to know everything about kinesiology, but they've got enough to go away and test things on a regular basis. So you might,
Yeah.
um, you're not focusing, you're tired, you've got a headache, your joints are aching, you've got bladder infections. Am I drinking enough water? And it's just so simple. So that's one of my favorite workshop course to teach people how to do that. And they're just amazed. Oh my God, that's just so simple. And why doesn't everybody know how to do this? Um, and then, I say to clients, right, you need this supplement, but let me show you how to test tomorrow because you might not need it tomorrow, or you might need it for 6 weeks. So that happens as well. Clients need something because they're so deficient and that there's so much stress going on in their life. They become really deficient in a certain thing. And I say, you have to take this for six weeks. And they'll come back 4 weeks and that supplement will come up again, show up again. So one of the things that happens to me often is eggs. One day I can eat eggs. I love eggs. Another day I'll eat eggs and I will rush to the toilet and I'll be instantly vomiting. It's
Right.
weird. It's weird.
Wow.
It's because depends. there are certain, maybe it's the egg itself. Is it not fresh enough? Is there, my body's not, it's rejecting it. I'm intolerant. So you can be intolerant to something, means that you fine, fine, fine one day, and then all of a sudden, then out of the blue, you'll have like a reaction to something that normally you can tolerate. And it normally is either you're stressed and all your body's energy is going in to deal with stress, so it can't deal with that particular. Maybe there was a bacteria in the egg and your body can't cope with it. And so your natural
Okay,
instinct
yeah.
is to, evacuate it. Or, your immune system's compromised. Or there's, years and years ago, I had E. coli and it was
Oh,
from egg and it lasted 18 months. This is before I knew what
wow.
I know now. And I just had the twins. So they were about 6 to 8 weeks. And I remember my husband going out and getting us a takeaway. I think this takeaway consisted of chicken and a coleslaw. It was your fast food type food. Because I was too tired to cook, obviously.
Yeah,
And I had the same as everybody else, but I was violently ill my body didn't fight off the E. coli. Everybody else in the family ate it, they were fine. And then for 18 months, anytime I ate chicken or eggs, I was violently sick and ill for about a week. It's sort of almost, so sometimes these bacteria and stuff can stay dormant in your system and they hide. And then they flare up when you're stressed or when your immune system can't cope with it. And then
yeah.
and so, I wish I knew then what I know now. But sometimes I think, is that E. coli still remnants of that still in my system somewhere? And if I'm stressed or my immune system's compromised because I'm, too busy rushing, trying to juggle too many balls in the air, my body won't tolerate with that particular egg. It's weird. And it's instantaneous. It's like I can't get to the table to the toilet quick enough. It's
Wow.
projectile sometimes. But then and I don't want to make it that I'm fearful of egg because eggs are a really good source of protein and there's choline in it.
Absolutely.
We need what's in the egg and, there's a positive stuff in egg and it's a really balanced aspect. But, yeah, so when it comes to foods and what the body needs, there's some things that the body doesn't need and doesn't like. So there's this other aspect that comes up. I'll tell you another story. So I had a client come to me and they'd been to Wimbledon. It was a really hot day. They had sun cream on, they had perfume, and they was all dressed up. They're watching the tennis, back and forth. They were drinking champagne because that's what you did. They had, it was a nice day out. I think there was strawberries with that as well. And I think they got stung by a wasp. And when you then get stung by a wasp, your body will have a reaction. Histamine will rise and allergens will come into the body, but your body won't be able to pinpoint exactly what one of those things were. So they know there's been a reaction, but it will take like a snapshot of everything that you was ingesting or absorbing at that particular time. So that client, anytime she watched tennis, she'd get these weird symptoms. Or if she had
Mm.
strawberries, so that's why strawberries sometimes comes up, or perfume, or if she was in the sun, so she'd get hives and she loves the sun. And so what we had to do is unpick all of those, bring all those substances together in one place. So what actually happened, the client didn't know this, but as I'm working with, I'm like, oh, strawberries coming up, champagne's coming up, sun cream or reaction to hot weather, and turning the head. You know, it was almost like different jigsaw puzzle of this particular allergen puzzle. And then we had to unpick it and let the body know, okay, it's safe to eat
Yeah,
strawberries.
yeah.
Yeah. So your body's really complex and your immune system can get confused and it will put something into the wrong category. So, yeah, so it's really interesting. And that's, I think, what kinesiology is mainly known about. But oh my God, it does so much more than that.
That's just incredible, though. I mean, honestly, our bodies just never stop fascinating
Mhm.
me. It just blows my mind every time you hear something. You're like, no way. but you know it to be true, you know it's so possible. That's incredible. That's a lot of things for that body to go, "Do you know what? That all feels really unsafe, and now I'm just gonna separate them, and now I've got 7 allergies." You know?
Yeah,
Wow. Oh my
exactly.
god.
And that's really common. So, like people go for picnics and, they don't have a pollen issue or they don't have an intolerance to strawberries or whatever, or peanuts. And then all of a sudden, they get stung by a bee or they get sunburn and the body then reacts and then it views that there's an issue. And then, yeah, so then and they get becoming more common, aren't they? So common.
Oh, the
People
allergens and
having issues.
intolerances are for sure, yeah. Yeah,
So
they're
there's got to
everywhere
be
now.
something else going on as well. There's a lot more going on as well. Um, yeah, and it always comes back to the stress because if you're not stressed, your body will then fight off those toxins, the viruses, the bacterias. Where we live in a world that's full of bacteria, we've got to be able to adapt and cope with these things. But if you're stressed, then it impacts your immune system, and then your body doesn't cope. So then we always find that if there's an allergy, we always have to go and deal with the stress pattern. What's the stress going on in that client's life? And that could be relationship issues or financial issues, or they're a carer caring for somebody, or so then we have to deal with that to free up some energy to support the immune system. So then that body can cope or tolerate with something. So then that's where we go back to that big jigsaw puzzle. We can't just know
Yeah.
about the chemical stuff and the immune system, and we also then have to deal with whatever stresses that client is going through.
And it's funny, isn't it, how it all comes back to this in the end. You know, it all is based within the mind and how we feel and our emotions and how we're coping. And then you've got the sort of the biochemical side of it and everything else. And then the external, all the influences that come from outside, whether that's you know, environmental or stress factors, or as you said, you know, actual real things that are going on in our life that are causing us aggro and trauma and, you know, back to emotions again. And it just goes round and round. And you just look and go, it's incredible. I don't know how we spent so long with only a portion of the world looking at our medical care in that manner.
Yeah.
And the rest of us all just sat here completely unaware, just kind of going, oh, I feel like this today. I feel today. I'm really angry today. And just kind of letting it go and just continuing. I look at myself in the last, funnily enough, 7 years. And I look at where I am now to where I was then. And the knowledge of knowing how to look at my body differently, my body, my mind, everything around it has just it has absolutely blown my brain. It really has. I think it's so fascinating that, and we should all be paying far more attention to, as you said, that wonderful big picture where all those aspects are coming from. And I was literally having a conversation with someone the other day, a podcast guest, about how I became gluten intolerant out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere. I always felt that it was probably a backup, like a build-up of too much gluten that was probably damaging my system over time, and I didn't realize. And I was a bread lover. I love pasta. I love pastry. So I was probably making it just without knowing, making it worse and worse and worse as I went along. But it just came out of nowhere. And it took me months to work out what the problem was. And my husband and I, where we work with food so much, we're just like breaking it down, take this out, take that out, remove this. What if we just go to like bare minimum of chicken and rice? And rice was a problem, you know, just
Sure.
deduction after deduction. Um, but now, hearing what you were saying about intolerances, it also makes sense how now I can eat bread sometimes. Not all the
Yeah.
time, sometimes. I can sneak a bit of pasta sometimes, not all the time. And I just say it's luck because I've kind of been what I would call clean from it for a while. So it means that I've got the space to have a little. But hearing what you're saying there, you kind of look and go, actually, is it more circumstantial? Is my body fighting some sort of stress or strain elsewhere? Is my immune system struggling in that moment, causing an intolerance, and this moment not?
So, if a client comes to me for that, then we will look at maybe we'll test what can they tolerate, what can they not tolerate. And like you say, it can be certain grains, it can be bread, pastas, it can be rice. They can tolerate oats, sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. We'll test all those things out. And client obviously has to trial and error. They'll know if they have that. Normally if you're gluten intolerant, you have a strong reaction to it, don't you? And then we're doing the kinesiology elimination and testing and what works, what doesn't work. But then you've got the villi, all those little tiny hairs,
Yeah.
which is the small intestines, which is, again, the Chinese traditional medicine aspect of small intestines. That's about, that's got its own bigger topic to go with it. It's about self-sabotaging. What are we doing to self-sabotage ourselves? And the immune system, has the immune system become compromised? And is there leaky gut? So then it's like a build-up. So you probably have been gluten intolerant for a while, but then you've left it, and then the damage gets worse and worse. And you can repair that. It's about repairing the small intestines, the lining of the small intestines, and working with the immune system and looking at the stress. So, not always, but a common thing that comes up with gluten intolerant people is something to do with dad, something to do with father. So, if there is an issue with father, so that,
I've never heard that before.
yeah.
Really?
Mm. So it can be that you
Oh my
you don't
God.
feel supported. Your father said that you never look pretty enough, tall enough, smart enough. Your dad doesn't give you enough attention. He focuses more on maybe his brother or something like that, or you don't see your dad. You don't have a good relationship with your dad. Or your dad died. There can be father issues. So that, not all the time, but you get like these themes that show up with certain patterns, and you think, I can't ignore that. I've got another client that's now gluten, got a father issue.
Yeah.
You know, we might have to look at that. And it might be the stress
Wow.
pattern around that is then impacting the immune system, that is then making you more intolerant to gluten. So then we still have to do the small intestines work, recovery, repair, removing the culprits. And then we might have to look at improving immune system. And then we have to deal with the stress. The stress is something to do with dad, which is having an impact on all that. Or small intestines, which is, why are you self-sabotaging yourself? What is, and don't get me wrong, I'm a bread addict. I love bread. And it has
Love
taken
bread.
me years to give it up. And generally I don't eat bread because it just makes me so bloated. But at the same time, I think if I go to somebody's house and they've cooked a beautiful dinner and there's bread or they, made me egg on a bit of bread, I think, oh my God, this could be a nightmare for me. I'll eat it because I think I'm not going to be too intense about things.
Well, no, because you can make it worse yourself. You're literally putting sort of this massive onus on it that you can actually then, you're creating your own block, aren't you? And the
And
same with the gluten. You do just kind of look at it. I go, if I'm going to have it, I'll have it. If I'm not, I'm not. I'm not going
yeah,
to sit here and berate myself for touching it or going near it. My body will let me know if it can handle it or if it can't. And, as you said so beautifully earlier, it will evacuate it if it's a problem. So.
a- allergies are different. When you've got an allergy and you just stay clear because your body's going to react. But intolerance, might get away with it one day. You think, got away with that today. But then the next day, you won't get away with it. And so, the sensitivities and intolerances, and we'll work with that. So, it's fascinating, isn't it? How our bodies
Well, yeah, I
work
mean,
and how
literally, you
it's all
just saw my
involved.
face as you were talking about that. Like, oh my God, like absolutely fascinating and mind blowing and just kind of like, what? I didn't know that. I've never heard of
Yeah.
that. That's amazing. Like, you just give me like my research brain's going, oh, I need to look at that now.
And even like the small intestines. So, from a Chinese traditional medicine, I love the small intestines. The heart is known because it's fire. So we've got lots of fire energy at the moment. We've got Aries in Mars. We've got Fire Horse. This is an intense, eruptive, explosive time that we're in at the moment. And so if there's too much fire, that's your small intestines is not going to be able to cope with anything that causes any inflammation or friction. So then, your atmosphere that's going on can infect the microcosmic, macrocosmic, they all have an interplay with each other. And small intestines, going back to movement, is your quadriceps. So if they sort of say, if your thighs, your quadriceps are strong and you are toned and move those muscles well, then that is a longevity muscle. So back to
Okay.
simple movements. What can you do to support your quadriceps?
Yeah,
If it's sitting too much or, doing simple movements to get them strong, that will support you in small intestines. So then you could eat your bread one day, and not react. Everything's interlinked. Our body's like a beautiful web, and they call it the matrix, don't they? Think about fascia. Our whole body structure is held in place by fascia, which is a matrix. And I think we're like that. We're all part of everything. And therefore, you pull a piece of webbing over here, it's going to have an impact over there. And
definitely.
we're all connected. And that's what we want. We want to be connected. And I think maybe that's what making people a little bit more sensitive to things. So, at the moment, because of all the energy that's going on with Aries, I'm just not being I'm quite a feisty person. I like a debate. I like a battle. I like a conversation. If I can be confrontational. I can be antagonistic. But at the moment, I'm thinking, just don't bother. Just step back. Just move
Yeah,
away from all dramas. There's a time to say your piece, and there's a time to hold your tongue. So I think
definitely.
we have to really take on the energies, and there's a lot of yang energy which can make people like reactive and angry right now. So either take yourself away from anything that's going to provoke you, or work with your fire elements or your liver's a really good one for anger. And do sort of everything you can to support your liver so that you can cope with the energies at the moment. So that's another facet that comes up with kinesiology and qigong and movement and everything like that.
I absolutely love that. And do you know what? I feel like that is the most perfect note to conclude this episode on, because that is just like really, really good advice for everyone out there right now. Almost to go and work with that now. I'm working a lot with my liver as well at the moment because I'm suffering with liver issues. So I'm kind of working in that area, and it does. You can feel the how to put it? Like, you can feel that you're in the right zone. I think you're right. The energy from outside, the energy from the planets, and that you're kind of working on that correct area. It just all feels very aligned at the moment. It just feels like you're in the right place doing the right thing. So I think that's like the most perfect advice that you could leave people with at this point. I really do. And do you know what? This episode has just been so fascinating,
Oh,
absolutely fascinating. I said to you, I was really interested in kinesiology anyway, but I'm even more so now.
it's the
You
tip of
really
the
got me on the hook
iceberg,
here.
though, isn't it? That's the thing. We could probably talk all day.
Completely. I think we could probably sit here and easily fill a second hour full of something completely different. I've always said I'd love to have all my guests maybe start back at the beginning and go through everyone, have a second episode with everyone as we move on, as we learn more as well. So I might be coming back round to you, Jill.
Well, if you want to hone in on a specific topic and talk more in depth about anything that we talked about today, I'm more than happy to do so.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for wonderful information. And obviously, as always, guys, I'm going to put Jill's details into the bio, into the episode description. So you're going to be able to hit the link. You're going to be able to find all of her details. If you want to talk to her, work with her, ask her a question even. I mean, she's got a wealth of knowledge here to share, and I'm sure she'd love to share it with you. So if you want to find Jill, just go to the description. You'll find all the details there. Thank you so much, Jill, for being on today. I really appreciate it. It was really interesting. Very interesting.
Thank you, Bex, and see you next time.
See you next time. Until next time, everybody, take care.
Bye bye.